I have to start this episode out with a story time, a small story.
I'm dying to give that a read then.
Strong man versus strong man.
Today's episode of this podcast is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction, because today we're talking about Kurayami Dance, the 2015/2016/2017, depending on when you read it and where you live in the world, series written by the enigmatic Suda51. I'm Wesley with my good friend and co-host,
I'm Reece, and I love Suda51. And then you cut out everything past the past 30 seconds. That would just make that seamless. But keep this meta in, so they're like, man, what got cut?
I will. Don't worry. I think the listeners from home are gonna love this intro.
Oh yeah.
Reece, I've been dying to talk to somebody about this manga for what feels like my entire life, even though I just read it in 2017, so I guess that is like 9 years.
That's like 9 years. Don't sell yourself short, buddy.
That's true. But yeah, I'm just dying to get into it. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts. I think just some important context for those at home that may not know what this is at all. This is one of the few non-video game projects written by Suda51, who is the famed Japanese video game director and writer of such classics like No More Heroes 1 through No More Heroes 1, Charter Strikes Again, No More Heroes 3, Killer 7, many other titles. Reece and I are both huge Suda heads, and this is one of his more obscure projects, namely because it's a manga published by a studio that doesn't really have a lot of hits, and also was never released officially in English. So shout out to the Believe in the Nets blog folks that translated this. But yeah, sorry for this long-winded context introduction, but I'm dying to just hear your gut reactions, Reece. What did you think of this?
To be completely honest, I'm feeling a bit like a media analysis fraud right now, because I guess twofold. Firstly, yes. I feel like this is a series that I need to just straight up read a second time to fully comprehend. I feel like
okay, that's very fair.
Its overarching narrative is a little harder to discuss, considering it's so also like episodic and weird. Like it's basically just like 6 chapters of episodic stuff, and then like a weird hotel arc, and then like the final stretch, which I don't know what the fuck. Like I have complex thoughts, but I also feel like they're complex because I'm still parsing through what Suda is trying to say sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think a lot of his work does feel very dense and weird, and I think this is on par with Killer 7 in my opinion, of just being very weird and sometimes smacking over the head with the themes, but also a lot of the time being very obscure and hiding what it's actually about, which is very interesting.
Agree. I also feel like this is going to be a fun episode because I feel like this is going to be the only episode in our entire series where I have less to say than you.
That's fair. I mean, I think one thing that I just kind of want to get out of the way is that I don't really want this episode to just be like, hey Lois, this is just like that movie that we like. But I think more so than maybe any of Suda's games, except for maybe one game that you have not played yet, which may or may not be the conclusion of the No More Heroes series, I think this is the thing by him that references the most pieces of media outside of Suda's work.
This has a lot of references.
It's got a lot of references, and some of them are to things that are extremely popular, and then sometimes we are going to just name one of the characters that's central to the story a obscure Gundam character and not really dive into that, and that's just how it is.
Who I was telling Wesley about this off camera, but is also just happens to be like the fucking semi-main character of Gundam G-Quux, the like Shin Gundam from a lovely Hideki Anno.
And it's also interesting because when did G-Quux start airing? Was it like 2018?
25. 25.
Oh,
G-Quux is new.
Wow, I didn't realize it's that new. That's crazy. I the reason I was asking is because this is a one piece of work where Suda51 just directly says that he loves Ano and thinks he's a genius, which I know we both agree.
I couldn't. I feel like, not to be dramatic, but I think me and Suda would be great friends.
I exactly. I'd love to think that as well.
I felt like I was in the damn loony bin whenever I showed people Shin Godzilla, and they were all like, "Yeah, it's okay," and I was like, "This is the greatest movie ever made. What are you talking about?"
I know, and it's very funny that that's the exact thing that he references because we know that Suda's also a Evangelion head. His studio Grasshopper has worked on an Evangelion title before, but it's very funny, of all the titles he could have referenced specifically, it was Shin Godzilla, which I'd have to assume, is that popular in Japan? I know it's
very popular in Japan.
Okay.
I think it's interesting because have you seen you've seen -1, correct?
I have seen -1.
I think it's interesting because the sentiment I received from not only people online but people IRL is like, yeah, -1's like way better than Shin Godzilla. This is what Godzilla should be. And it was kind of interesting because they sort of I'm not like a tokusatsu or like a kaiju head. But the sort of impression I got was people said, "Oh, well, this is like one of the good ones," and I'm like, I think that's a little reductive. I don't think it's like I'm not even gonna like say it's like completely wrong, but I think it's like a little too reductive for my taste. And sorry, we're getting off topic, but the TLDR is Shin Godzilla was a much bigger deal in Japan than it was in America, because I think Americans don't really care about like the guy who made Evangelion's commentary on like Japanese politics.
Right. We love that, but you're probably right that the average American does not. Yeah. But yeah, I think on top of this being a piece of media that references a lot of other media, this is also one of two Suda projects that is very plainly in the Kill the Past universe, and there's tons of references and even cameos by characters outside of the actual text. And Reece, I have a little thing that's going to blow your minds.
Oh.
I think it's very interesting, at least, because I'm looking at your report card and I'm jumping ahead to your complaints. And one thing that you say that is very interesting that I'd like to discuss a little bit further is that the women are oddly handled. And I do agree. I think that's something that we need to discuss further. But there is something very interesting about one of the women in this series, and that is Tsukiyona Akari.
Which woman is that?
She is the woman with the eye patch.
Yes, okay, his wife.
Love interest. Yes, exactly. Reece, I have a very interesting little thing for you.
That's Suda's real life wife.
Now that would be Ano Indian.
And to really immerse himself in the writing process, he really blew her fucking head off.
True. There is a lot of debate among Suda fans that I've seen, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this as somebody that's not just a Chud online person is that if you look at the picture I just sent over on Discord, and I will edit into the chat, this woman was in the first death ball of
I remember
Travis Strikes Again. This is the eye patch woman from Kurayami Dance.
What?
I'm not kidding. And there's a ton of debates around this whole situation, because obviously another thing that everybody talks about in Kurayami Dance is that it's somewhat a prequel, or like it's set right before Travis Strikes Again, because obviously the two assassins that seem to be inspired by Umbrella Academy, by the way, they go and find a little RV in the woods where there's a famous assassin, and obviously that turns out to be Travis Touchdown.
Which is peak, by the way.
It is peak. It's a great moment.
It's been very funny. I just want to say really, really quick. It was so funny to like basically play the first level of Travis Strikes Again and then read this series, because Suda just pulls the same gimmick of, oh my god, it's the Killer 7, oh my god, and I was like, oh my god, like he got me both times. I was like, oh shit, okay, Suda.
It's peak. But yeah, so this woman has, not only does she have the same name and has some personality traits, but this is just confirmed to be the same woman. Okay. Which obviously makes absolutely no sense because
She
doesn't have an eye patch. Right. She doesn't have an eye patch. She looks completely different, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I see online a lot from people, namely some Suda fans that like No More Heroes 2. Think No More Heroes 2 is peak. And I think Reece and I have our own opinions on that sentiment. But
I unironically want to do an episode on it, man.
Yeah. To be clear, we're not huge No More Heroes 2 fans. But you'll see a lot of... There's like two camps of Suda51 fans, I feel. And there is half of those fans will not even give this the time of day because all they care about is stuff that's canon to the Kill the Past universe. And they're like, oh, this can't be canon for X, Y, and Z reasons, so it's just a pointless waste of time. And one of the reasons
I've been that's a horrible way to engage with art, man.
Exactly. And not only that, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, I love the Kill the Past universe, and I think it's really neat when we see the characters interact. But of all the like cinematic universes, in quotes, or like media universes, this is probably the one where I care about the actual, like, day-to-day connections of how these pieces of media interconnect the least.
I completely agree.
I think the real charm of this being in the shared universe is that it's really cool when we see the same characters from different stories interact. For example, I think it's really cool when we see Batman and Dan Smith interact. I think that's peak.
I was hooting and hollering when that should happen, man.
Exactly. I think that's where the idea of this all being the same universe really shines. I don't think it matters at all how these things are canon to each other. And I think the best piece of evidence to this is that No More Heroes 1 and 2... they make no sense together. Like, No More Heroes 2 is not a coherent, canonical follow-up to No More Heroes 1.
Honestly, kind of true, which I would say in that exact scenario I'm not a fan of.
Right. I'm not a fan of that either. But even going to, like, the premiere series in this universe, already in between the games, it's incoherent. And I think No More Heroes 1, Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes 3 are much more coherent.
Mm-hmm. Well, I gotta say, my first impression was I really want to go replay that first Death Ball just because like I want to see this interaction like go. Now that I've read Kurayami Dance.
Exactly, and yeah, I think my impression of this is just like, oh, I think it's cool that this character, who I like, I think she has faults that we can discuss, but I like her. I think it's cool that we just get to see her and Travis actually interact. I think that's cool and neat. And I don't really care for the fact that like the canon of it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I feel like being mad that Suda51 does not have a strict timeline is like it's like being mad at a dog for not being able to do a backflip. Like, dude, it's a dog. Just appreciate it for what it is. Like, you're judging a painting on how good it is at being a car.
Right, exactly. I think of all of Suda's strengths, I'm not going to be like, oh, his number one strength is like making a really cool interconnected world where every single event completely matches every other piece of media.
I mean, brother, in this manga, like fucking like two people with masks show up and fight some blonde guy who is like related to our lovely main character's name I'm forgetting right now, is like backstory.
Wataru Kamikaze.
Wataru Kamikaze, yes. I feel like that was like, I mean, this is more of a complaint, but like I did not understand what the fuck was going on when they showed up. I felt like that was kind of crazy. Like I didn't really. I think if you want like the real TLDR of what I think of this series, I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping ahead from our conversation with the internet connected universe, which, by the way, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, like just straight up.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
But I feel like my impression of this series is I read chapter 1 and I think it's like genuinely peak. I think chapter 1 of this series is like a perfect short story.
Absolutely.
And then we get into like the next like 5 odd chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think I sort of gave this spiel before. But the next 5 chapters, if I can go into a little more detail, I think are a really interesting parallel of like society.
Right.
the way I take the first couple, like the subtext of the first couple chapters, it is like, imagine if you as a like carefree youth just had to like jump into the adult world, and there's all these rules that don't fucking make sense, and everyone is sort of nonchalant about like the impermanence of life and how absurd life is, because they're just so like transfixed in this system that like all the rules don't make sense. And our lovely main character, Wataru, he feels like an alien in this like world of like society, of like maybe even more specifically like Japanese society, of like being a working man. But I wouldn't know. I think more so it's just about like the emotional angle than like the literal angle. Like,
right. I agree.
But the reason I'm saying like Japanese society is like, I think there's probably some commentary in like chapter like 2 or 3 when he like meets that guy who's like a pretty nice, cool guy, but he's like, yeah, I have to kill myself because I made like a minor mistake at work, and he's like, whoa,
yeah,
why is that? Why is that the assumption?
Right.
And I think genuinely my favorite moment is that chapter 1 just like speed scene, because I think Suda's cooking out of his damn mind. But
oh yeah.
I think like my favorite quote is like, people in this world treat death like far too lightly, because I completely agree. And when we were talking about this off mic, you mentioned that Suda was a gravedigger, and I completely forgot about that lore like while reading this, and it truly it helped inform that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I mean,
I think, sorry, continue.
No, go ahead.
But basically, we get this opening hook that's great, and then we get some disconnected stuff that I felt like I enjoyed because it was Suda, and I enjoyed because he's like a goofball, and like he's interesting, and I like seeing him just like work. Yeah. But I was a little like, okay, where is this going? And then we get to like the hotel arc, which I think is probably like, this series was like this close to completely clicking into place with me for that. Because I was like, oh shit, he's kind of cooking out of his mind with this. Like, this feels like I see the vision, I'm in line with it. And there's like, it's like 3 or 4 chapters of like the 16 he spends at the hotel. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it's like 4 chapters, I believe.
And like specifically like the middle 2, I want to say I was like, whoa, this is like really good. Yeah. And then he just like leaves the hotel, and I feel like the where I'm getting confused, and where I'm sort of like not as in love with the series, is sort of the back half. I feel like, or like post hotel, like back half. I think there are obviously some great cool moments and like good quotes, and I mean a lot of fun references. I was popping off when fucking like they were just sending like weird Killer 7 emojis at each other for no reason. That was hilarious.
That is peak.
But I sort of feel like I got a little like less like interlocked with what Suda was going for narratively, both in like a subtextual and even like textual way. Like, I don't know, his like weird dad like priest betraying him, I felt was like somehow obvious and like not interesting. Right. I sort of wasn't as interested when his like weird friend, like I think his like friend goes and kills the priest, doesn't he? Yes. Or like he like shames him or something, and I was like,
yeah, they have like a weird interaction.
And I was like, okay. Yeah. I feel like one interpretation of that scene is like Suda's like, yep, my friends are gonna beat up my stupid dad, and I'm like, okay, Suda, whatever.
That is based if it's true, I suppose.
I have several other small comments we can make sort of along your discussion, but I think that's my general, like, why I'm giving this like a 7 question mark is I wonder if I liked it, but I think my impression is I would love to like sit on this for a couple months and then like go back through it again and reread it, because I'm wondering if it'll make a little more cohesive sense in that like back half where I feel like it sort of lost me.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. My perspective on having read this before, but many years ago, and now rereading it, I am inclined to say that the second half still feels bad. My impression of it this time was like, I almost wish that this was maybe 3 volumes long instead of just 2. And maybe some of the ideas in the second half were kind of fleshed out with like maybe 2 times the amount of chapters is too intense, but like definitely some more wiggle room to actually expand on some of the ideas, because I think where this thematically where this short series really shines for me is its commentary on like work and living and dying.
Yeah.
And I think those three topics specifically, the way that they intermingle in the series, are really cool and actually really inspire me, and think really resonate with me. But I think the problem is that the second half almost jumps to this angle on with forgive me for using this word, but like Freudian stuff, and I think I resonate with that a lot less. And I also feel like it's not really expanded upon in a very interesting manner.
I'm so happy to hear that I'm not crazy. I genuinely felt like such a damn fraud for being like, I don't know if I understood or liked this back half, because I love when I love Suda, man. I love when I'm like, dude, Suda's a genius. And I felt bad when I was like, I don't really know if I'm understanding or connecting with this. I felt like a fraud.
I don't think you're a fraud, and I'm also not saying Suda's a fraud. Like, I still give the series an A+. I still really love it, and I think there's still a ton of great ideas. I think the art by Mr. Takaya is great.
Oh, absolutely. It's very soul eatery.
It is. I agree. And I think there's even moments in the second half that I love. My Suda51 writing appreciation corner was Wataru saying, ever since I woke up, I feel like I've been living too fast. It's like my consciousness is about to take off and fly away.
That is peak.
I think I'm just missing something, a footprint. And I think that's really, really cool. And it does fit in with the themes that are pretty well established in the first half. But I think the second half just kind of gets a little too wandering. And obviously there's stuff
I think when we cut to like his weird like high school bully, I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think that's weird. I think I recognize the fact that references to Wataru's mom are throughout the series, and I think it is kind of interesting, the fact that like his mom seems to be like a spirit or something similar that's like always leaving him little notes and little lunches. I think there's obviously something there, but I think the way that it just kind of hard cuts to this like reconciliation with his mom at the end doesn't feel very thematically satisfying.
I don't think it felt earned.
Right.
Like, I think that's a cool moment in a vacuum, but it wasn't like built up to like, I'm not even saying I do not want to be that guy who takes this like kind of absurdist non-linear piece of art and then goes like, yeah, it didn't have a tight narrative. Like no. Yeah. But I feel like that's an emotional moment that like I don't know if this series had enough time to make me feel that right properly, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, kind of jumping to another topic here, I think another thing that feels a little bit thematically and narratively unsatisfying, and once again, like, I don't want to sound like a chud. I agree that this is kind of just supposed to be like an absurdist piece of art. We're not really supposed to be taking these things literally or anything like that. But I think the way that Luna and Akari are treated, specifically those two characters, I think is very odd. And I almost wish that instead of having a big payoff with his mom at the end, I almost wish that he got a payoff with one of those two characters, because I feel like that would feel a lot more narratively satisfying to me.
I think a moment here that I think is really good but could have been a lot better is when he's like putting her eyeball into his head as like a marriage. That's really peak, but it wasn't like introducing this random woman and then they just get married and then she just dies. Like, I needed more. Mm-hmm. Why is there more time dedicated to like the random businessman he stops from killing himself than like his wife?
And by the way, I love unironically, maybe my favorite chapter is all that stuff with the random businessman. But I think the problem is that his wife Akari should be a much bigger piece of his of this story, and we just don't get that at all. And
I want to see their dynamic more. I feel like I barely even got a damn hold on it.
Exactly. And I think there is definitely since we haven't finished you haven't finished Travis Strikes Again yet, I don't want to jump into the themes of that a little bit. I think people will be saying like, oh, there are some parallels between these two, and I get it, I understand that, but a point that I do want to make, because I feel like some Suda heads might be thinking this too. Suda, I do think that part of this is somewhat inspired by Suda's real world wife. I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't even know he was married.
He is. He's been I don't remember exactly when, but basically and I could be getting this slightly wrong. Maybe it was just a girlfriend at the time and they're not together today, but he did have a long-term partner that when he had all of his like odd jobs, when he worked at Disneyland, when he was a gravedigger, all that stuff, him and his partner at the time kept traveling from place to place throughout Tokyo and all of Japan. And he's gone on record saying like that part of his life was very tumultuous, but it's also a part of his life that really inspired his work. It really means a lot to him sentimentally. And I want to say that some of the stuff with the wife character here is probably inspired by that. So that's kind of the impression that I get.
I mean, that definitely helps inform why there's like a weird road trip angle to this that feels very strange.
Yes, exactly. And
I mean,
I don't know.
For what it's worth, I really do like the bits in which he and oh my god, what's your little series MVP? What's the little guy?
Shalia Bull.
The Shalia Bull guy, yeah. Shalia Bull guy and him just like shooting the shit in the car is like very fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Suda will always be good at just like writing character dynamics between like two oddballs, and I think when Wataru is bouncing off of Shalia Bull or really any of the characters, especially the more wacky ones, I think the series is really peak.
Mm-hmm. Also, I just got to comment on this. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this off camera too. There is so much fucking wrestling in Suda's work. I really have to get into luchador wrestling specifically, but also like New Japan wrestling and like why is there a luchador doctor?
So another funny thing is his name is Dr. Moonlights,
mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of speculation that he is related to the Moonlights from No More Heroes 2.
Oh, what the dude, Suda's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever been confirmed, but it is interesting that name seems to have some kind of special meaning to Suda's work, and that was what he named him. But I think that's a very fun character, but this is kind of like, in my complaints I mention, there's a lot of side characters that I really like, but I feel like at least 20% of them don't get enough development. And I feel like, for me, the characters that don't get enough developments that I wish had more were Dr. Moonlight and Luna.
Yeah.
But genuinely, just characters across the board don't really get... a lot of the side characters don't really get enough love, in my opinion. Which is sad because they're a lot of fun.
I agree. I basically just completely agree, no notes. Like, I think Suda is one of his great strengths, and a great strength that I appreciate in a lot of writers is like he's really good at making fun characters and fun character dynamics. So
absolutely.
I feel anger when I feel like that doesn't get to be. I don't know, man. I'm thinking about Taite Kubo, an author we both love and respect.
Yes.
And like, it's almost shades of Kubo, where it's like I feel like, I don't know, Kubo would handle this a little better, if I may.
Probably.
Which like, he's introducing these wacky side characters, and I don't get enough time to even get a grasp on what the fuck their deal is. Like, they're just there and then they're gone. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. And I think, I don't know. It is also interesting that this is like Suda's only comic/manga that he's written.
I would love a second crack at it, just so we're clear. I think
exactly.
This has a vision. This feels like inspired by both the early 2000s and a little bit like the 70s in the way it's like constructed. I don't know. I see someone here who made a great first manga, and I think they'd make an even better second.
Yeah. This I've not read Zombie Dust, but everything that you describe about Zombie Dust, I feel like is very similar to what we get here. Where it's like I could see the ideas that could be fleshed out into like a full series. That would be really cool.
This is Suda's Zombie Dust. I think is like that's the title. That's the tagline.
True. Let's just say Kubo and Suda heads are going to be flocking to this one.
I mean, hey, Kubo's also currently working on his own weird interconnected universe, with Burn the Witch. So who knows?
That's actually true. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'll always be a sucker for a fun little interconnected universe.
Me too, man. I mean, just so we're clear, I I think it's really funny that they're sending these weird ass like fucking stickers to each other. But I love when I was seeing Dan Smith and Garcian, I was laughs and smiles.
I know, it's wonderful. Well, man, I know this has been a quick little bite-sized episode, but I just wanted to get some of those thoughts off my head. Do you have any other notes that you'd like to discuss?
I appreciate that the references were sometimes just sort of like, for example, when he's talking about Anno's a genius, that felt more like Suda the man, just like, hey, I really like Anno, which is based. But yeah. I also liked that the references sometimes added something a little bit more textual. Like, I liked the weird Shalia. I don't know why, but the Shalia Bull stuff felt very soulful.
I agree. I feel like that's the kind of reference that not only informs something about Suda, but it also informs something about the characters in that situation.
There must be. I really do want to rewatch or like read Gundam: The Origin finally, so I can understand the Shalia Bull hype.
Yeah,
because I truly do not remember this character at all from my original watch through of 0079.
I would whenever I finish Gundam, I'm gunning to run back and reread this to see if the reference or parallel makes if there's any deeper meaning there.
Look, man, all I'm saying is that we need to make Amuro Ray versus the world.
I'm not opposed. Oh, also, what? Sorry, go ahead.
You don't gotta twist my arm.
Comment down below if you'd like to see that. One other quick thing that I do want to comment on is I think it's hilarious that Suda loves like 3 things that are in all of his work, and it's wrestling, motorcycles, and then Morrissey, the man.
That's a really based 3. That's a good.
Yeah. I think that's like the fact that I mean, obviously nearly every single one of Suda's games has a the band reference to it. Mm-hmm. But I think the fact that in this one the reference is just like, I'm just going to quote unchanged the entire like first 2 first 2 verses of a Morrissey song. That was maybe the funniest thing that he's done.
Unfortunately, that was based and very, very soulful. I'm not gonna lie.
And that song, I do want to just say we are Monkey D. Wokey on this channel, so I know Morrissey's a bad guy, but this song is also very good. Let Me Kiss You is a great song.
It is, and also it's got a funny picture.
The picture of Morrissey with a Tommy gun.
Yes. Yes.
I think I made this joke to you off mic, but maybe that's where young Harmon's look came from.
I genuinely, completely believe it.
I know. I also just have to say that there's something that hits difference listening to that song and actually looking at the arts.
I did the same thing, man. I did the same thing.
It's unironically such a beautiful spread. I think that song just like gives it such an interesting flavor.
I think interesting flavor is the best way I would describe the series.
I genuinely couldn't agree more.
If I were a wine taster, I would be squishing this around in my mouth and I'd be like, interesting.
You'd be taking some sniffs.
I'd be taking some sniffs. I'd be rubbing the bottom of the glass.
You'd be eating some fine cheese and dairy products.
That would, in this case, I guess that would be Travis Strikes Again. It was the cheese.
That's actually true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, buddy, I have to say, neither of us have played Shadows of the Damned, but for you at home also, if you haven't played Shadows of the Damned, pick up the Grasshopper Manufacturer official re-release, because you can actually play with a Wataru Kamikaze skin.
Oh, dude.
And it's based. He had a poll. It was like 3 different references to other games. 2 different references to other games, and then one of them was Kurayami Dance. And I made a bot to spam that option for the poll.
Yes.
I didn't actually do that. But I would.
Yeah.
And also, Suda, if you're listening, or anybody at Grasshopper Manufacturer's team, we will play and review Romeo is a Dead Man if you let us talk to Suda. Well, we're going to do that anyways. But if you're listening in, we will do that.
Let's just say Romeo and Juliet versus the world will be an episode on this channel.
True, and we're not talking Shakespeare.
Shakespeare with emojis.
It's Shakespeare, but it's he's sending Killer 7 themed emojis, and it's like this, like the tragic ends where they drink the poison, but it's actually a reference to that scene in Killer 7.
He's sending an emoji of an anime girl, but it's actually a reference to Killer 7.
He's sending a picture of a head in a washing machine, but it's actually a reference to Killer 7.
He's sending an emoji that is American flag ? United States president ? And then ? Japanese flag.
That's peak. Let's just say people at home are gonna love that one.
I hope so. I hope the Suda fam loves that one.
They better, man. I'm gonna be making a short for that part.
Yes.
All right, buddy. Let's wrap this one up. I think we both gave our ratings, but for those of you that are just tuning in for this special, typically we're talking shonen. So if you love One Piece or Hunter x Hunter, please subscribe to this channel.
And if you like Suda, also just subscribe, because we also like Suda and we're cool guys.
If you what's the thing we talk about a lot? If you like that meme of the guy smashing his glasses and screaming, "I'm not afraid," subscribe to this channel.
If you like Warhammer 40,000, subscribe to this channel.
If you are an American flag ? American president ? Japanese flag ? lovers, subscribe to this channel.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ow, ow,
Hey.
Hey. If you like Babu Frick, like and subscribe and hit the bell.
Comment down below what's your favorite Babu Frick moments
Yes.
in Kurayami Dance.
I like when he kills C-3PO and then doesn't.
Hey.